Vidya. Yeah, it's exciting
This
to.
meeting is being recorded.
uh, Okay, okay. Yeah, exciting to address you guys. I think Sandeep approached me earlier in the week, and I was curious to know what kind of format or what I should be talking to you guys about. But I'll keep it open. I was mentioning Sandeep within an hour. I can go over some of the life stories that I have. 1 hour is too short to cover, but I'll kind of talk about it in the first half an hour or so. But I want to make it about you. I was in your boat 22 years ago, 23 years ago. I passed out VGTI 99, and I believe you had Karthik a few days ago. He was in my batch as well. So very vibrant group of folks. Professor Boli was our advisor for our final year project, so we are very close to him. Um, that's kind of the where I was in VJTI, in double E background. And I thought, like, you guys are in the same boat where I was at that time. So keep it a little bit more open, where I want to make it interactive, where I could address some of your questions or go deeper. Um, but I'll cover my story quickly and briefly, and then kind of dig in deeper as you guys feel relevant. Uh, so I'll start. I have a few stories to share with you. First, I will talk a little bit about uh, VJTI days itself, and see, if that is very relevant and might resonate to many of you guys. I request folks who are not talking to mute, please. It's a big group, so let's have some mic discipline. Thank you. Um, so yeah, our final year project, we were doing. We were a group of eight folks, and I'm sure you guys are most are final year, third year,
Mostly first and second year.
first and second year. Okay. So in your final year, you got to defend your thesis, your project, depending on what you choose. We picked a project, and I came across this speech to text API from Microsoft. They had just released the latest and the greatest version of it, and this was 98, 99. That was a very cool thing, a very happening thing around speech and speech to text. So we picked that as our final year project, and the twist there was uh, there was nothing for Marathi at that time. Right? There was nothing for Indian languages, and specifically not in Marathi. So the goal was to use the Microsoft's speech API, which was primarily built around English text to speech or speech to text, and how can we build a Marathi language converter where someone would speak in native language, starting with Marathi, and then translate that and synthesize that into text. Humongous project. And then when we approached Boli sir was, well, it's a difficult one, it's a tall one. If you guys want to go with it, I'm with you guys. But it was a fun experience. Some of the context of this talk is around innovation, around thinking outside the box, around looking at possibilities. So there is this notion where you want to kind of think global, and in a startup mindset or in an entrepreneurial mindset, you do want to keep your eyes and ears open. You want to think global, but at the same time, you want to kind of narrow it down in a very specific context to apply it to very local, right? And then local could be physical local, where your community, where you are. It could be on context local, where you can make a big difference in a very small, narrow area. And then you kind of scale, right? Once you establish that, hey, this works, we know exactly what to do. From that point onwards, you scale, and then scale could be again going global, so to speak, or going wider, going deeper, so to speak, right? So that notion, without expressing that in language, we still followed that path. We went ahead with a project where we looked around what everyone else is doing around speech to text, and it was very new, it was very unique. There was not a lot of Stack Overflow There was a lot of support system that you can kind of debug and find out yourself. So that was a good experience for us. And then learning, and then finally, our project went well. In fact, Gole sir, I remember, had a lot of asks of us to actually deploy that for the VJTI campus help support system where someone would talk in Marathi and then that would be synthesized. So essentially like a chatbot was, these terms are all new, but in 99, machine learning, big data, API, microarchitecture, all of those tech words were just forming, or they were not even there. But we were doing that in some expression or the other. Right? We were trying to innovate with and applying that in a different context, um, solving a problem that there was a need at the time, and then there wasn't a lot of solution that we could count upon. Um, some learning I would like to share with you guys in that project itself. Some of the things that we always talk about. In college days, I'm sure in this group, different people have different learning styles. There are those last minute learners who would open the book a week before the exam. There are those throughout the semester really study hard. So we in our group had all sorts of individuals, but that's kind of makes up the team. So one learning, in the course of that project, I could synthesize was, you, you know, think think around what your ultimate goal is, right? What's the final goal you want to achieve, and kind of work backward from there. So that kind of goes without saying. And in parallel to that is this notion of iteration, right? Like get something out quickly. Um, so that both of these seemed counterintuitive when you think about it. But once you walk the path, it's kind of that's a learning that at least I had in that project. Uh, yeah, if you can mute whoever is not speaking. Um, whereas yeah, and then the other aspect that as part of plan out your deliverables, right? Like that's one more learning that I had during that time. So when we had the final year project demo, until the last night there were so many bugs and issues that tomorrow is our presentation, and today they were you know very flaky output. So luckily it worked, but making sure you have fail safe mechanisms in place when you're doing a lot of your deliverables. That's kind of another learning that we had. And I'm talking very tactical right now because in the context of your project, those themes tactical. But once you start doing these tactical things, internalizing them, and you take a step back, they do become strategic habits, right? You start thinking about what would it take to succeed as an entrepreneur? What would it take to succeed as an innovator? A lot of these things are very tactical, but unless and until you do those regularly, you do those with the discipline, there is no easy path to success. So that's kind of the first story I had for you guys. We'll keep some time again at the end, and I'd love to go deeper there. From there, yeah, my path took me. There were two options. Most of the folks in the class of our batch were eager to study abroad, go for masters, go for PhD, Europe, US, India. So the post graduation idea was not quite second to me. That wasn't something that I had interest in doing right off the bat. I really wanted to go to the industry, so I spent a nice 1 year in the corporate life with Citibank. Learned a lot there. That's one thing I would say. In your first job, it's never going to be a last job, right? It's your first job. Where today, as much as it sounds that it's not something that you aspire to start your career and end your career. Right? The economy, the market, the way of life has changed so much over the years, that it's all about learning, adding value, adding impact. So in your first job, one learning I would say is try to understand how to kind of learn from others, right? That's kind of the first thing you learn in your college. In your college, it doesn't teach you the specifics, but it teaches you how to learn in an academic setting. And your first job, that's the second part of it, right? Like how do you learn to learn? So asking people, understanding like what the goal in a corporate environment is. That goes a long way. Um, so I spent some time in the corporate world, and after that, I did had the lure to kind of go for my higher education. So it took a good solid year to kind of think about what I want to do in life next. And it seemed at that time for me, uh, pursuing my education further was the right thing for me. And then that's something I would advise you guys. It's like, when in doubt, when things are not clear, do take time to understand what you want to do. It's not, 6 months, 1 year is not a bad time to invest in thinking about what you want to do next. But when you're walking that path, don't spend too much time around thinking of something else, right? Like spend that time in the present, learn a lot, but then take a logical stop and say, hey, now I have done this. What do I want to do next? And so for me, going to US, pursuing my master's was the next thing I wanted to do. Um, I did that, learned a lot again in my master's program. Uh, and just as undergrad program will teach you, the meta about learning, right? How to learn rather than the specifics of the program itself. You're not going to come out of VJTI as fantastic coders. You're not going to come out of VJTI as phenomenal chemical engineers or electrical engineers, right? That kind of teaches you an entry point where from that point onwards you got to kind of apply yourself in the problem at hand. So college does teach you a lot. Most importantly, it teaches you how to learn. So I'm kind of stressing that point a lot. Is you take that with you throughout your life. Is the mechanisms of applying those, that's what college teaches you, because day to day you'll be always worried about. It's like, hey, I have my engineering 101, I have my mechanical drawing, I have my double E, I have my logic. Right? Day to day, you're always thinking about those courses. But in the process, you will kind of realize that, while that matters, the specific matters, but the mechanics of how you apply yourself, how you learn, that matters far more. So do take time while you're walking the path to take a step back and understand what the mechanics are here. So coming back to my master's program after that, uh, I wasn't sure that US was a life for me, and I went back to India, and kind of on the personal fronts, a lot of things happened where I got married, and my wife and me, we both made a call that, hey, India is something that we want to pursue. Coming back, and so we spent some time coming back in India. Spent a year and a half. Enjoyed our time here in India. Um, we were in Pune. Again, the same notion that, while you're there, make the best out of it. So we learned a lot in the Indian ecosystem, in the Indian corporate life. You got to get a flavor of how different corporate life and different cultures are within US, within India, and so on. And then after a year and a half, you would see, every path is unique. Everyone's path is unique. Um, my path was filled around experiences. So in a year and a half, I was eager to get a new experience. So I went back to US. We started a career there second time around, and since then we are here. It's been almost 15, 16 years since we came back from India. And my career from that point onwards, spent a good time with Google. In between, spent time with startups. So I spent a lot of time, big companies, small companies, startups. Fluctuating between between those, again, a lot had to do with my desire to learn, my desire to experience different aspects of what life has to offer. So I spent some time with Google. Google was a great experience. That's another career advice I would give you is go for career aspirations that kind of aligns really closer to your heart. You always think with your brain, but you feel with your heart. So take take your career choices where which gives you the most happiness, right? Like of course, career as a success, as a commercial success, as a money success is always an attribute. But career as a uh, learning, happiness, experience, that matters a lot, right? And you may or may not realize it right now, but as you kind of walk the path, you'll kind of get a feel for that. Okay, that makes a huge difference. And my stint, which was one of the longest in Google, was what taught me. Um, Again, some of the things at Google was very near and dear to me. So things like there's a culture of 20% projects where you could try out your own project, which you could try out your own idea. That notion went a long way. So there were a lot of learnings there as well, where uh, don't settle for what you're doing as a deliverable, right? Go outside the box. So if you're and I'm kind of giving you bad advice here in your college days. If your deliverable for your next course is, this is the program, uh, don't just settle for that. Right? Don't settle for saying that, hey, I got an A in this subject, and to get an A, I need to deliver this particular paper or this particular project. Don't settle for that. Think around. It's like, hey, what am I exploring here? Right? So you may get a B. That's fine as long as you learn, like, a to the power of 100, right? Like, so that's the part which I would say advise you, having walked that path, is don't fail on the subject, but your goal for getting an A should not be just the A itself. But your goal should be like, what are the things I can do that can apply it somewhere else in my life, which I can carry it in my pocket. Carrying that A with a diploma and with a certificate is just as valuable. Um, but carrying that A in your mind, where you can apply those learnings in other aspects in life, that's far more important. So I would uh, request you guys to think in those terms. And with that, coming back to my career life story, post that, I was really eager to do my own startup, and this was 2015, 2014, where in the valley, if you're in Silicon Valley, I was in Mountain View, Palo Alto, Sunnyvale. Everyone, and then I'm very happy to see that's a culture now in India. Every time I visit India, I'm very, very excited about the startup culture, the innovation culture, and it's kind of deep rooted throughout the walks of life. It's not just a top grad school graduate engineer who's thinking about startup and innovation. It's the entire walks of life. It is the vegetable seller who thinks about how do I digitize myself, right? How do I make my business grow? So I'm seeing that notion, that culture, that mindset very, very deep rooted in India. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about you guys, your future, because you're coming into a society which has already internalized this culture of innovating, of disrupting, of doing something awesome. So it's a great time to be in India, and it's a great time to be globally as well. Um, and that's where I was in 2015. Like, I got to do a startup. There is no point in in missing out on that opportunity, where I have enough that I have learned from corporate life. Let me start something on my own. And that's where I started Simility with my co-founders. Um, Build the company, build the team, build the product. Again, a lot has to do with the team itself. Um, and then after 4 years of our fantastic journey of our startup, and I, that's a whole topic in itself, on how to build and grow a startup. It is probably a little too early for you guys to go into detail about it. Um, eh, but that was a great experience. That was a great experience. Um, diving deep into the deep end of the water, where a lot of these things are new. You're kind of changing what they say, right? Changing a flight engine in midair. It's not an easy task to do when you have 40 things around you. Um, and then we had one of our customers. PayPal was one of our customers. PayPal really liked what we were doing, and then it just made a logical sense for us to be part of PayPal, and then deliver our product through PayPal. And we had a great experience there as well. Great company, great team. We got that chapter, with our product internalized within the PayPal ecosystem, live to tens of thousands of merchants of PayPal. So till date, our startup product was in fraud management, enterprise fraud management area. So till date, that's considered one of the biggest deployments on the planet with PayPal's fraud ecosystem. So that's an exciting place to be. Um, from that point, this was 2021, a year and a half ago, a year ago. I felt my work at PayPal, what I wanted to achieve was completed, and I wanted again to start a new chapter. So here I am, working on my next startup in the ML AI space. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell. I want to leave a good solid time for you guys to make it more interactive, and I can go deeper into your questions. Uh, to to kind of wrap it up, I would, again, the talk is in the spirit of innovation, in the spirit of being an entrepreneur. I painted you guys a lot of rosy picture in that 30 minutes. Um, it's not that easy. uh, so some of the things I'll kind of make it bite size summary. The the plus sides, or the things that you want to focus on, um, you know focus on learning is kind of the very key aspect of what to, keep your eyes and ears open, learn from your peers, learn from your professor, learn from your books. Most importantly, learn how to learn. That's kind of, that's one area. Second, as I said, don't settle for the bare minimum. Don't settle for what is expected out of you. Have your opinion, right? That opinion could be a wrong opinion, it could be a right opinion. Only time will tell, right? Let others not dictate whether that opinion is right or wrong, right or the bat, right? Walk that path. You have an opinion, bet on yourself, stand behind it, act on that opinion. Otherwise, that ideas are worth, the dime a dozen. Anyone can come up with the idea, walking that path. So that notion of being biased to action. That's the second part, is like act on that idea, have that opinion, stand behind it, and act on it. Um, Third thing, somewhat, you have to kind of build your own path there. Everyone's path is unique. There is no formula there. Uh, but make the best out of the path that you are. So don't get demotivated. At times, is always going to be ups and downs, but walk that path to know, what is stored for you. At times it might feel uh, that it's not the right path. Give it a chance, um, you know, and then make a call what you want to do next. And then once you're convinced that, hey, this is the right path, go double down, work hard on it, really make it happen. But if you are convinced that, hey, this is not the right thing, don't feel shy to press the reset button. Right? Reset button in life is an expensive button. Use it judiciously, but then remember there is a reset button. Things are not. things are never as bad as you think they might be in that moment. So always remember there is a reset button, but don't always press that every now and then. That's use it judiciously in your life. On the downside, as I said before, it's not an easy path. You have to make a lot of sacrifices. um, there's like a wisdom among a lot of entrepreneurs who have walked the path, and I'm kind of I'm nobody in that space to that end. But if you ask, and that's what I did a lot when I was starting my own startup, is talk to lots and lots of people. Talk to your friend, take advice from everyone around you. Everyone has something to offer. Learn from it. So one advice was, idea, innovation, knowledge, skills, all of that is important. The most important thing as an entrepreneur is grit, right? Grit is this your desire to keep going, your energy to not give up, right? So that part I would say, that's the single largest differentiator between someone who kind of keeps going at it as opposed to giving it up, right? So that grit is what I would say is one of the single biggest thing. And you should it's not an easy thing to do. When you it's the easier way out is not doing it. So that's kind of um, the challenge side of things are. I'll kind of take a pause, or I'll kind of wrap up here in terms of giving you guys I hope this was somewhat off the cuff, but I want to make sure I don't go too much into detail and make it too boring for you guys. Um, but I'll take a pause. I would like to open the room. Let's have, because there are so many participants, let's have some. I don't know if there is a raise your hand, but maybe Aditya, you can call out individuals and then have questions.
Yeah, yeah. Sir, I think we might be running out of time for this meet link. So if this gets disconnected, I request all the participants and you to like join with the same link again, and we could continue it from there. Right now, we do have some time. So, does
Sounds good.
anybody have questions right now?
Yeah, so I will start. So, hello, I'm Sandeep Udmale again.
Yes,
So, when I see your profile, there are two startups you have started. So, in first startup, what is caused you to it hand over to the PayPal? So, because you have started with that good innovation and the good, it was good startup basically. So, what causes basically that has been hand over to the next one, and then you started again with the new one as the currently which is your new startup is currently running. So I wanted to know that what are the reasons or what has the cause you to take that decision to surrender one and then start with the new one.
got it. Yes, surrender would be a big word there, but um, as any decision in life is, it's never a 100-0 decision, right? It's never the outcome is binary, right? The outcome is always binary. But the process in making that decision is never that cut and dry, right? There are so many, mm, and if anything, that's a great decision when the pros and cons are right in the middle, right? Like you have a reason to say yes, you have a reason to say no. Those are the best decisions in life. If you are in that boat, consider yourself lucky, right? Because if that's not the case, the decision is made for you. So I was happy that I was in that boat. Um, the the specifics around why and how might get too detailed in this audience, but I'll kind of give you some high level thought process around making those. Right. So in any startup there are phases, right? So you start with that ideating phase. You kind of build the prototype. You go to market and kind of get a product market fit. Is like, hey, is there a pull from the market? Is this something that can add value to someone, right? And then how big is that value? How much are people going to benefit from it? How many customers, users are going to benefit from it? So you kind of get a scale and scope sense around how much of an impact this product can have. You build the product, and then you kind of grow the product by different channels, right? You have your sales channel, you have your marketing channel, and so on and so forth. And then you grow the business. And as you're growing the business, you kind of realize there is, you know, all the things that got you to success that far at every phase in life, right? They are usually table stakes from that point onwards. What I mean by that is,